Colorado Republicans are clearly denouncing white supremacists on the same day that President Trump walked back his criticism of the KKK and Nazi marchers last weekend, saying that there were very fine people on that side and on the other side. Tonight, condemnations of the crowd that the president seems to be courting from Senator Cory Gardner and the chairman of the state GOP. We explore Colorado's current connections to old racism, from a hidden Confederate monument in Denver to a prominent place name that's right out in the open. And the latest on a white nationalist group tied to the organizer of the Charlottesville March, a group which is bringing its annual conference to Colorado. Republican Senator Cory Gardner, in between his back-to-back town halls today, spoke with our politics guy, Brandon Rittiman. Gardner over the weekend was one of the first Republican leaders in Congress to push President Trump to condemn the KKK and Nazis. And he again took issue with the president casting blame elsewhere today.
Let us be very clear. This is not a time for pale pastel comments. This is a time for clarity, and this is a time to be absolutely clear. There is no moral equivalency in what happened in Charlottesville. We will not stand for the KKK. We will not stand for neo-Nazis. We will not stand for white supremacists. They don't belong in this country. They aren't a part of this country, and shame on anyone who fosters or propels their ideas. And we've got to make sure, and the president has a moral obligation to make that crystal clear.
Do you feel like saying that there's blame on both sides does foster some normalcy?
There is no blame
group?
on other sides. This is blame on the KKK and neo-Nazis and bigotry and hatred, and we must be crystal clear. There is no other excuse for the kind of hatred and violence that we saw. Nobody can say, oh, the Nazis, the poor Nazis. Nazis are evil, and they must be named, and we will call it out every time.
Senator Gardner faced angry crowds at the town halls today in Colorado Springs, then Greeley, then Lakewood. Voters upset that the senator had been ducking town halls for about a year, hammered him again and again with questions on health care, on President Trump's actions, and on whether Gardner truly represents Coloradans' best interests. Senator Cory Gardner deserved tough questions at those town halls, especially after avoiding them for so long. What was unnecessary today, in my view, is that many times after hearing a thoughtful, important question from a critic in the audience, the crowd would boo, jeer, and shout down the senator's answer so that it could not be heard. It happened again and again in Lakewood. I've used this program to urge Senator Gardner to face his constituents at town halls. Town halls can be a useful demonstration in democracy. What I watched today was useless. Screaming down every answer they disagreed with, which was most. The crowd just reinforced what Gardner and some other Republicans have suggested, that these town halls are more about embarrassing political theater than democracy. And the next time a politician won't hold town halls, what I saw today makes it a lot harder for me to say that something valuable is being lost. Colorado currently has 2 Confederate memorials. One's at Greenwood Cemetery in Canyon City, and the other is at Riverside Cemetery in Denver.
So yeah, I've certainly talked to people who find it disturbing that it's here.
Ray Thal literally wrote the book on Riverside Cemetery's Confederate veterans who were honored by the memorial. It's at the back of the cemetery. Many don't recognize the Confederate flag waving above it.
We only allow them to fly the national flag, as opposed to the traditional stars and bars that you see, and that is the center of a lot of the controversy.
There are 15 Confederate soldiers buried at the cemetery. Like many Confederate monuments at the center of controversy these days, this memorial is a more recent addition. The plot was bought in the 70s by the Sons of Confederate Veterans, which is added to the memorial from time to time.
I don't think fundamentally people should have a problem with that.
We asked the Sons of Confederate Veterans to talk to us for this story. They declined. Thal says he's heard from people touring the cemetery who don't like the memorial, but he's never heard of an effort to have it removed.
I mean, I think it would be a much different story if this was on the Capitol grounds or, Civic Center Park.
One of Colorado's most prominent place names with a connection to a racist past is probably Stapleton. Our Marshall Zellinger looks at a renewed push for that airport-turned-neighborhood in Denver to no longer be named for a KKK member.
I created this graphic here, and this graphic here, and this graphic here back in May.
Aaron Johnson, who goes by the name Loki, is not being low-key about his stance on the neighborhood that bears the name of former 5-time Denver Mayor Ben Stapleton. Full disclosure, he doesn't live in Stapleton.
If they're not going to officially change the name, I'm going to stop using what I call the S word, and I'm going to call it KKK-Stapleton.
Even before this weekend's events in Charlottesville, Virginia, there have been multiple attempts over the years to draw attention to Stapleton's history, which includes his name being printed on this roster of Ku Klux Klan members.
We have the logbooks here at History Colorado. He's listed in the register as BF Stapleton number 1128.
Jason Hansen is from History Colorado, which provided these historical images and Denver Post clippings from 1924, when Stapleton was facing a recall election.
When he was campaigning for election, gave a speech to the Klan assembled on South Table Mountain outside of Golden, and told them that he would work with them and for them.
Forest City is the developer of Stapleton. A spokesman for the company told me the Stapleton name is a geographic locator within Denver, just like Wash Park is in Denver, and that they've come up with at least 11 different names for the neighborhoods within Stapleton.
Well, why then is Forest City spending all of this money to create a website, create a logo, put that branding on wine glasses?
Good question. If Stapleton is a geographic locator, why is the development website stapletondenver.com? The spokesman said it's part of the marketing which is necessary for the project to succeed. And according to this survey done by the Neighborhood Association this past spring, 54% did not want to take part in more discussion about the name Stapleton, and just more than half were completely or somewhat comfortable with the name.
I got quite the history lesson today. Why do neighborhood names exist? I'm told it dates back to the 70s, part census, part the city trying to figure out some statistical information from decade to decade.
Practically speaking, could the name change? How would it change?
You'd have to encourage everybody to start calling something like Rhino, have a big discussion, and then city council could have a resolution, but that doesn't mean people would stop calling it Stapleton.
Yeah, people make their own choices on that in the end. Interesting. Marshall, thank you. I spoke today with the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party, who told me that his party has no room for white supremacists and white nationalists.
Not on my watch. I wish they would leave us if they are in it.
Do you see that kind of thing? Do you hear that rhetoric in meetings? Do you know that it's out there on the fringes of the state party?
I really don't. I don't hear it. And that doesn't mean because I don't have a comprehensive view of everybody's thoughts and beliefs, but it's never been presented to me.
State GOP Chairman Jeff Hayes is from El Paso County, which is where a white nationalist group, VDARE, plans to hold its annual convention next year at Cheyenne Mountain Resort in Colorado Springs. What kind of reception do you think they should get in the Springs?
Cold. Tolerant. You know, we do believe in the First Amendment, not only from a governmental standpoint, but also individual conversations. I don't think that anybody has the authority to beat somebody up for what they're saying. Certainly, any facility has the right, certainly, to refuse that service. But I don't think that they're going to be overly welcome in Colorado Springs.
Jeff Hayes and I also discussed whether Colorado Republicans should ditch their primary to keep unaffiliated voters out. He says that's not going to happen. We talked about whether primary voters should pick a gubernatorial candidate who is like President Trump. He says there's only one Trump. And I asked whether the president has been a success in office. The chairman needed a couple of tries to answer that one. Our full unedited interview is on the next YouTube channel. Now, as for that white nationalist group coming to the Cheyenne Mountain Resort, still complete silence from the resort. Colorado Springs Mayor John Souther says the city won't support or in any way welcome that event. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office tells Next that its deputies will not be allowed to work off duty as security for the resort or the white nationalists. Cheyenne Mountain Resort's PR team says they are still working on that statement of theirs, same as 24 hours ago. They probably assume that we'll stop asking questions about this. We won't. Renee Lima Marin came back to court today. His immigration attorney says a judge reopened the case, canceled his previous deportation order to Cuba, but now Lima Marin has to go through and ask the court again if he can stay in the U.S. He, of course, was the man who was mistakenly freed from prison before his armed robbery sentence was up. He was pardoned by Governor Hickenlooper. But now it is up to an immigration court to decide whether Lima Marin, who was brought here as a child, can stay. When Colorado cast its 9 electoral votes for Hillary Clinton, that was not without some resistance before that became the word du jour. 2 of the electors who voted for Clinton are suing the Secretary of State for a second time, saying that their rights were violated when they weren't allowed to cast their elector for someone else, someone that Coloradans didn't choose, namely some other rogue Republican instead of Donald Trump. The electors who were suing towed the line in the end, Polly Baca and Robert Nemenich. Only one of the 9 electors from our state actually went forward and voted for somebody other than Clinton. You remember him from this show, Michael Baca. He was quickly yanked from his role and replaced with somebody else who would vote for Clinton. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a sort of recycling bike. A small school in Wyoming turns the Eclipse into a fundraiser. Anybody want to rent a football field for the night? They'll leave the lights on. We'll talk with an enterprising superintendent next.
You know, it's been relatively quiet here in Denver this afternoon. Haven't seen too many storms move in. A completely different story just to our south in Douglas and Elbert County. Strong cell pushing in toward Castle Rock and through Parker, delivering a lot of damage. Look at all this hail, drenching rains out there. This is the backyard of Raman Nolet. Thanks so much for capturing this shot for us, posting it on our Facebook page. Severe thunderstorm watch still in place for most of northeastern Colorado. And that's really the area we'll be watching later this afternoon into this evening for the severe weather. A lot of lightning within these storms. Quarter-size hail within this cell in Morgan and Weld County as it's tracking to the north and to the east. And then I'm watching another one in Elbert and Lincoln counties. This cell has produced golf ball-sized hail, and now it looks like a flash flood warning also in place because of all the rain. Corey Reppenhagen out on the road for us tonight, capturing some of these hailstones about a golf ball size in diameter. Here's that storm system ushering in the front overnight into early tomorrow morning. That's going to cool us off and also bring us another round of a few rain showers. We could see even another round around 9-10 p.m. here in the city. We're left with mostly cloudy skies and a few light rain showers early tomorrow morning coming through. Around 3-4 o'clock, 1 or 2 storms zip through the metro area, and then we'll start to see our skies clearing and temperatures eventually warming. Tomorrow, though, a day in the mid-70s. We jump about 10 degrees by Thursday and hang on to those upper 80s Saturday and Sunday. So far, it looks like maybe 1 or 2 thunderstorms in the late afternoon. That'll be about it.
The most Colorado thing we saw today is a woman who is furiously pedaling to keep up with Denver's trash problem. She has found interest from businesses and everyday people alike, looking for an environmentally friendly way to dispose of what they don't need. Our resident cyclist and photojournalist Mike Grady tried to keep up.
The morning commute can be awful. Now imagine it on a 200-pound cargo bike.
To pick up a bin at Portside.
Christy Turner is heading to pick up a bin full of
compostable material.
In February, she started a Denver-based pedal-powered compost pickup company called Scraps.
Get ready.
She collects
eggshells, egg cartons, lemon rinds,
and other compostable materials from local restaurants.
They basically take out our trash.
Chris Bell owns Portside in Rhino. For him, using a compost service like Scraps is good for the environment and his bottom line.
And we're a business, so we generate a lot of waste, and if we can keep more of that out of the landfill, then that's a win-win.
When they're, sending 90% of their stuff to be composted, that means they can reduce their trash bill.
So Christy schleps this rig, which can weigh up to 700 pounds when full, all over town.
Pretty badass.
Scraps also works with HOAs and property managers of multi-family buildings to provide residents a service that's tough to find in Denver.
You don't do it, you just know that you wish you could.
Helen Canode is getting her compost taken away for the first time.
It's pretty awesome.
And it's so easy. You have your recycling bin, you have your garbage bin, and you have your composting bin.
Christy seriously enjoys cranking around town picking up compost, but she hopes to be riding a smaller bike to work again someday soon.
If the city steps up and, creates a policy where composting is suddenly mandated and ubiquitous and it puts me out of business, I don't care. Great. Problem solved.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
They work with companies which use alpine waste to haul their compost, so she'll just fill the empty space in the dumpsters and then it all gets disposed of together. Small town Wyoming is about to get trampled by a sea of people headed into the path of totality for the eclipse. Rather than complain, one small school is planning a fundraiser. And when we told you to look closely at your eclipse glasses, we were not expecting to find an epic spelling error. Next. The population of Wyoming is expected to double next week for the eclipse. That has caused no small amount of worry and also ingenuity. The school superintendent in the small town of Guernsey, 3 hours north of Denver, wrote a note to Next inviting an invitation for you to visit them for the eclipse next Monday. Platte County School District Number 2 is renting out its football field as camping space, its parking lots as RV spots, so that people can spend Sunday night up there and be sure to see the eclipse Monday morning at totality. The school has marked off 10-yard by 10-yard squares of the football field at $100 a night. Parking spaces are $75 for the RVs. They'll turn on the football field lights at dusk and then turn them off so everybody gets a good night's sleep. You get access to the school showers and the bathroom. The district even pushed back the school's starting date in order to keep the campus clear. Guernsey's 75 students will be there helping out, selling food and drinks and welcoming guests.
A lot of people are coming into Guernsey, and we could either fight it or join it. So thought it'd be an opportunity to rent out some of our open athletic space and make a little money for the kids and have some fun along with it. To the community's rolling out the carpet, the hotels, camping spots, and I think it's just going to be an opportunity for us to really kind of showcase our little community and just take advantage of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Where we're located, it's going to be great viewing, and we'll be in the path of totality, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
All the money raised, of course, goes back to the schools there in Guernsey. They even talked about opening up the school cafeteria if there's demand for meals. Listen, everybody makes mistakes. Don't let yours be staring at the eclipse and ruining your vision. The last thing you want is to be blinded by science, as it says on the eclipse glasses given out by Colorado State University. 50,000 eclipse glasses from the College of Natural Sciences. Mistakes happen, and they were really good sports about it when we brought it to their attention. They decided that reprinting to try and cover up the typo wasn't a good use of resources. We would agree. They noted quite correctly the most important thing is the glasses meet safety standards. May I make a recommendation? Point you towards something that did not come from us but is worth your time. Craftbeer.com has the right idea. Website put together a list of 10 breweries with a great view of the solar eclipse. List starts in Salem, Oregon, on to Idaho Falls, Idaho, Grand Island, Nebraska, Columbia, Missouri, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, on through Clarksville, Tennessee, Franklin, North Carolina, 2 in Columbia, South Carolina, perhaps they're within walking distance, and 1 in Charleston, South Carolina. They offer descriptions of what the breweries are offering. If you have a friend in that area, or if you're headed to Grand Island for the eclipse, listen, rather than sit in traffic, enjoy a drink, have some water, make sure you're good to drive, and then hit the road. There's a link on the next Facebook page. It is a sign. Water levels are looking pretty good on the western side of this state. That's next. It's a sign spotted by next viewer Terry Robinson up at Elk Creek Marina at the Blue Mesa Reservoir in Gunnison. Terry says, lake's pretty full this year if the tow-away zone is partially underwater. She says there are some fully submerged signs nearby as well, so be careful boating on Blue Mesa. If you see a sign that causes you to do a double take, email next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. Lots of feedback about my comments on Cory Gardner's out-of-control town halls today. Linda Ewing says, thanks for your comments. Nothing gets accomplished yelling. Marvin Bonnie say, those yelling and screaming are paid Democrats. We have debunked that so many times. Just give that up. They're angry people. They're common citizens like you and like I. John Rodriguez, publisher of Pulp magazine in Colorado, completely disagrees with me, has a really smart, thoughtful take. It takes some time to read. It's on Twitter. You can find it on my Twitter account or on the next page. Please read it. See you next time.